it'd be remiss if we didn't just understand our own identities as Black men in the South, where hemp and just like the cannabis plant has been criminalized. And there are a lot of stereotypes and stigmas around, one, the plant, but two, various groups of people in this region of the United States and in the world.
That's Victor-Alann Weeks from Hemp Startup 40420. This is the Lancaster Farming Industrial Hemp Podcast. My name is Eric Herlock, and today I'll talk to Victor-Alann Weeks and his business partner Jalen Madden about their journey as two young Black men starting up a hemp business in the American South. Then we'll talk to Drew Kitt. He's been involved in the hemp industry in one way or another for over 30 years. He wears many hats in this industry, but today we're going to focus on his retail CBD shop in Asheville, North Carolina. We're going to take a quick sponsor break, then we'll come back with a few nuggets of hemp news, including an overview of the USDA's National Hemp Report that was released just yesterday. This episode is brought to you in part by IND Hemp in Fort Benton, Montana, where their mission is to provide innovative agricultural products and services to connect American farmers with the pioneers and businesses that see hemp as a way to bring real and lasting change to our communities and planet. IND Hemp. This episode is brought to you in part by New Holland Agriculture. New Holland is a proud Lancaster County company with a strong global presence. For over 125 years, they've been building, selling, and servicing machinery to help farmers feed a busy world. You can learn more about this world-class leader in farm equipment at newholland.com. All right, so just a few nuggets of hemp news for this third week of February 2022. Here's one out of Oregon from Channel 12 ABC KDRV. It says that Oregon Senate passes bill designed to get a handle on hemp. Lawmakers from Southern Oregon celebrated the passage on Thursday of a bill in the state Senate that targets the issue of illegal marijuana grows being passed off as hemp. The bill authorizes the Oregon Department of Agriculture to put a temporary moratorium on hemp grower licenses if a county has declared a state of emergency on the issue of illegal marijuana. How about that? You know, these things probably wouldn't happen in fiber and grain operations. Think about that. Here's a story out of Texas. It's on texomas.com, and it says that Panda Biotech president gives update on hemp plant progress. The story says that despite some setbacks, the president of Panda Biotech said the company has made some progress, and they are now seeing a light at the end of the tunnel. The hemp processing company located in the old Delphi building off of I-44 uses industrial hemp to produce textile-grade fiber and premium cellulose by putting hemp straw into a hemp gin. Dixie Carter, Panda Biotech's president, said they have almost 40% of the equipment already at the facility, and the rest is ordered. She said everything is on time, even with COVID and supply distributions. She says, "We believe that when we are operational, even in our first phase, which will be a 10-ton-an-hour decorticator, we will be the largest, if not one of the largest, in the Western Hemisphere. This building that we're in right now will eventually house multiple phases of operation, and at that point, we should, by far, be the largest in the world." So maybe it's true what they say that everything is bigger in Texas, even industrial hemp. But I digress. Let's get back to the story. Carter said that the hope is still to have 100% of their hemp fiber grown by local farmers, and she believes in a year or so, they will have to source more from Oklahoma. Operations are set to begin in October at capacity. All right, good luck, Panda Biotech. Looking forward to great things coming out of Texas. All right, and then finally, here is sort of an overview of the USDA National Hemp Report that was released February 17th, 2022 by the National Agricultural Statistics Service, the NASS, the Agricultural Statistics Board, and the U.S. Department of Agriculture. So it's an in-depth report, and you should definitely check it out. I'll put a link to it on the show page for this episode. But right now, I'm just going to go over some of the highlights in the beginning. It says that in 2021, the value of hemp production in the open and under protection for the United States totaled $824 million. So for industrial hemp in the open, which I guess they mean outside, planted area for the nation in 2021 for all utilizations totaled 54.2 thousand acres. The value of hemp production in the open for the U.S. totaled $712 million, and the area harvested for all purposes in the open totaled 33.5 thousand acres. Then it gets into floral hemp in the open. United States floral hemp production grown in the open for 2021 was estimated at 19.7 million pounds. The area harvested for floral hemp in the open in the United States was estimated at 16,000 acres. The average yield for 2021 floral hemp in the open was estimated at 1,235 pounds per acre. The value of floral hemp grown in the open totaled $623 million. All right, then it gets into grain grown out in the open. National production of hemp grown in the open for grain in 2021 totaled 4.37 million pounds. Area harvested for hemp grown in the open for grain in the U.S. was estimated at 8,255 acres. The average yield for 2021 hemp grown in the open for grain was estimated at 530 pounds per acre. The value of hemp grown in the open for grain totaled $5.99 million. All right, then we get into fiber hemp. In 2021, production of hemp grown in the open for fiber was estimated at 33.2 million pounds. The area harvested for hemp grown in the open for fiber in the U.S. was estimated at 12.7 thousand acres. The average yield for 2021 hemp grown in the open for fiber was estimated at 2,620 pounds per acre. The value of hemp grown in the open for fiber totaled $41.4 million. All right, how about seed hemp in the open? Yeah, production of hemp grown in the open for seed in 2021 was estimated at 1.86 million pounds. The area harvested for hemp grown in the open for seed in the U.S. was estimated at 3,515 acres. The average yield for 2021 hemp grown in the open for seed was estimated at 530 pounds per acre. The value of hemp grown in the open for seed totaled $41.5 million. Hemp under protection. In 2021, hemp growers used 15.6 million square feet under protection for production. The 2021 value of hemp production under protection in the United States totaled $112 million. Hemp clones and transplants grown under protection in the nation for 2021 totaled 20.2 million plants. The value of hemp clones and transplants grown under protection totaled $23.8 million. U.S. production of floral hemp grown under protection was estimated at 310,000 pounds. The value of floral hemp grown under protection totaled $64.4 million. Hemp grown under protection for seed totaled 4,059 pounds. The value of hemp grown under protection for seed totaled $23.7 million. So that's the USDA's report. It sounds like a lot of money, right? Sounds like a lot of acreage, but this is just a drop in the bucket compared to where we need to be. I'm really hoping that in the future, we can just look at these different industries as separate industries, the cannabinoid industry on one side and the industrial use on the other side. All right, well, let's get into our stories for today. First, we're going to talk to Victor-Alann Weeks and Jalen Madden from 40420. Victor-Alann Weeks and Jalen Madden are two young black men from Atlanta, Georgia. A couple of years ago, they started a hemp business called 40420. This is Jalen.
We are 40420. We're from the earth, so we are for the earth. Just trying to find something that can give back.
So the name is a combination of the area code outside of Atlanta, where they're from, 404, mashed up with, 420, the code for cannabis. And so these guys are taking what they call an E-cubed approach. focusing on equity, education, and environmental stewardship, which Victor-Alann explains like this.
Equity, one specifically, because it'd be remiss if we didn't just understand our own identities as Black men in the South, where hemp and just like the cannabis plant has been criminalized. And there are a lot of stereotypes and stigmas around, one, the plant, but two, various groups of people in this region of the United States and in the world. So we wanted to step into the industry and a standpoint to shift what people's perception were. So we could say, hey, we are here to, one, bring education. This ties back into the other E, and two, change what that equity looks like. So instead of being over policed or hyper surveilled around this plant and this industry, we can bring economic development to the table. In environmental stewardship, I've been involved in urban agriculture since high school, helped start the Benjamin E. Mays Urban Ag and Horticulture Society. When I went to Davidson College, I even got involved with some rural farming down on Sapelo Island with the Geechee community down there, and being able to couple all these experiences, work with Jalen and just brainstorm. It's really become a cool sandbox mode for us to have an imaginative space to see what does it look like to truly harness and capture the essence of a plant and apply it vertically and horizontally to change the world.
They started the business in 2020 and had hoped to be growing hemp in Georgia, where they're from, but they are currently growing in Yanceyville, North Carolina. This is Jalen again.
You know, like politics and stuff like that, kind of got a little hard to do it in Georgia. So we started off in Yanceyville, and we plan on transitioning back to Georgia 2023.
Jalen is in college studying to be an anesthesiologist. He's also interested in holistic healthcare and herbal medicine. And his grandfather owns a rosemary farm in Barnesville, Georgia.
And so I grew up like doing like different like home remedies and stuff like that. And so I know the power of what the earth can provide. And so that's kind of how we evolved into hemp for me personally.
As you can imagine, setting up a hemp business in Georgia as a young Black man is not without its challenges, especially when it comes to banking.
Yeah, I remember just walking into a bank.
This is Jalen again.
And saying, hey, we want to start a farm, CBD farm. Can we get your support? And they would look at us and be like, try next year or something like that. It was small nuances when it's trying to get the foundation established.
Here's Victor-Alann.
It was a couple banks actually. But hey, a no, it's better a no than no answer. And the thing was that we didn't quit. Like, we kept going, we kept knocking on doors. And even when those doors weren't necessarily open for us, it just gave us the energy to find and circumnavigate that situation. And I guess even alongside that experience, just walking into different rooms or settings, when you say, or at least for us, when we're like, oh, we're young Black hemp farmers, 25 years old, people are like, oh, how much farm or area are you growing and how much revenue are you making? Like, we're just stepping into this. And for Georgia specifically, that you had to meet like a $5,000 quota just to prove that you can get into this farming, specifically with hemp. And since we're just getting into this, like, yes, we've had previous experience, but we didn't have that revenue to prove it. So it's kind of like we have a game plan and we have the knowledge to execute it. But because of an economic quota, we can't get into the industry in this specific region. And so that was a little discouraging. But like I said, it just made us brainstorm even more to circumnavigate and think about, okay, how can we still make this happen regardless?
In most cases, it's their friendship and respect for each other that propels them forward in this venture.
Yeah, and that's the one thing I do appreciate about Victor-Alann. Like, I feel like we have a good friend chemistry. Like, we can always push each other to fill each other's gaps. If I were to get discouraged, Victor-Alann would lift me up, and then if Victor-Alann like, then I'll be there to like lift him up as well. So it definitely takes like that team dynamic to make the world go around a little bit when it comes to doing something like this, especially from the beginning.
And they've known each other for a few years now.
So it's interesting. We're both from Atlanta. We had overlapping friend circles, but we didn't know each other until we went off to college and met our first, like, literally day one.
We were tight ever since. We were also Bonner Scholars together. So like, when you're a Bonner Scholar, that's like basically a community service scholarship. You go out and do like, 5,000 hours of community service or something like that?
280 hours of community service a school year. So it was 140 a semester.
Yeah, 140. And then there was something you had to do over the summer as well. So like, we always had to be with each other. like throughout all 4 years. And so just run into somebody you get so like over and over again, you start having different conversations, starts dreaming. And that's one of the cool things about going to college is sometimes that you have that opportunity to just meet your best friends, business partners, whatever. Like you can make your dreams come to fruition and you have the resources to do it.
It's a great point that you mentioned the Bonner Scholarship, because through that service, we got to interact with communities in different spaces, specifically in North Carolina around the Charlotte area, but we still got to venture out. And I guess we were reinvigorated to understand our duty to our community, to have this opportunity to, one, be in a higher education position, but two, use these relationships, use this funding, and use the new ideas and ideologies that we're gaining to bring, I guess, this sense of social mobility in the different spaces that we go to. So yes, there may be certain situations that we may enter as Black men that may not be the best or seem as the best, but we're always going to figure something out. And once we figure something out, we can just pave the way for others to come through and just build on top of that.
So how did these guys get started in hemp farming?
Actually, it starts with our apprenticeship, if you would call it that, with Smith Nursery up in Emerson, Georgia. And so it was a farm that used to do more of ornamental flowers, and then they transitioned into doing hemp, and more specifically for cannabinoid production. And so there was a lead farmer and then younger apprentices under him. And so we got involved because we just want to be in that presence, shadow underneath them, learn what it looks like to operate a farm, at least like, because they had maybe like 4 or 5 acres of hemp growing in different spaces, different environments. And so it was cool to get that firsthand experience from planting to trimming, pruning plants to cutting clones and harvesting, looking into the drying room, understanding the balance of humidity, all that, getting that firsthand experience. And so as we were going into our first year, it was our intent to buy plants from them. But they understand that, it's really an industry where we are now, where it's important to look out for one another and like really just build this creative capacity. So they graced us with just some clones to start with. And so we had about 350, 360 clones. And we brought those up to North Carolina a couple trips and had to make sure we got our paperwork right. But it was cool to have it official and to see that, we're setting a foundation that can only grow and expand from here. But yeah, we had those plants. We did some in pots with different soil combinations, in the ground with no-till method, and in the ground and the tilled method, and just understanding how these 8 different strains were growing on their own just in the North Carolina environment.
Yeah. And I would like to say, like, just getting into it. I remember the moment Victor-Alann hit me up saying, hey, we're about to go to Smith Nursery and just basically go on a field trip. Like, you get those jitters the day before where you can't really sleep, just excited to go. And we get there and everybody's super warming. It's a legit community. They really look out for us, showing us like all the small nuances when trying to get your paperwork together. So huge shout out to Smith Nurseries for like embracing us like that. And it just goes to show like how much people want this industry to come up, and like we want to support each other. We're trying to get this off the ground in the Southeast. So
one of the things that is often talked about in the hemp space, and these guys are feeling it too, it's that need for education. Here's Victor-Alann.
I think that a lot of people's perception around cannabis, hemp, have all been funneled into a negative perception due to a lot of media, because the power of visual media, this visual stimuli, what we hear, what we see, if you take in so much of that, then that can alter your perception. It can change or determine what the reality is for you. And so what we want to do is really go back to the sandbox and understand how can this plant be broken down into multi-purpose, multi-functions, and demonstrate the proof that, hey, this is one of many, many different ways you can integrate it into lifestyles for better, not just seeing it from historically how it's been perceived or how it's been displayed, especially when it comes from an oversight of surveillance and criminalization, rather than the people who are interacting with it every day, who are digging deeper to understand, okay, let's extrapolate like all the different aspects of it, not just focus on one aspect to skew that vision. And even in terms of education, like scalability is very important. So even on our farm, we're only working on, as of currently, like just less than a quarter acre of land. We have access to more. It's important for us to like start small, brainstorm, sandbox mode. And as we can build something that can be repeated and we can get our formula, that we can educate others on, hey, this is how you take the steps to 1, get your business established, 2, get the paperwork, 3, be tapped into the USDA, the Department of Ag for your state, and then start to build those alliances that can push the whole industry forward in different communities. And yeah, it's big ideas, but it's important to understand that if we can get communities to embrace it and to work together among one another, then it just becomes a larger push from there.
That's Victor-Alann Weeks and Jalen Madden from 40420, an up-and-coming hemp business currently in North Carolina, but they're hoping to bring the business back to Georgia for the 2023 growing season. These guys are young, smart, talented, ambitious, and they've got a great attitude. I look forward to watching their success, and we'll be checking back in with them as the 2022 growing season progresses. And just a note on the music that you're hearing in this segment, it's called Honomu and was created by Victor-Alann Weeks, who also does music production under the name Senehiro. I'll play the track in its entirety at the end of the episode, so check that out. All right, next we're headed to 22 Moons CBD in Asheville, North Carolina. Drew Kitt has been in the hemp space for nearly 30 years. Back in the 90s, he was an activist for hemp legalization, and then he became the manager of the Vermont Hemporium, an early hemp retailer. In 1999, he started a company called Hemp Provisions that focused on importing and distributing hemp products, but those were difficult times because hemp was still illegal. Fast forward 20 years, and it's a very different environment here in the United States as far as hemp goes. Drew's been very active in this new age of hemp, too. He works with the International Hemp Exchange, providing genetics. He's a founding member of the Southeast Hemp Association. And in 2019, he opened a shop in Asheville, North Carolina called 22 Moons CBD.
The shop is kind of my labor of love. It's local to my house, so it's very convenient. And for me, it was an opportunity to say, okay, I need an office because I'm going to be calling up, talking to farmers and about seeds, but I need a place to work out of. So why not have a shop where I'm serving the local community? Here in Asheville, we have it's like beer city. There's a lot of breweries. And as it turns out, there's a lot of hemp shops. So I'm probably one of 8 within a mile of me. So it's a pretty saturated market.
So what sets his shop apart?
I'm not downtown, so I don't deal with a lot of tourists. It's more of the locals. But I've always been more oriented towards health and wellness. And as an owner operator, I'm here. So when you come into my shop, you'll talk with me or my wife. So we're small, family owned and operated business. We have 150 different products. We work with about a dozen national brands and then a dozen local brands. So unlike others that are more vertically integrated, where they have their own brand, I'm working with local farmers because we have a lot of really great people in our community who are growing, producing, manufacturing. And so I'm kind of a representative essentially for them, as well as some other national products. And I tend to get, older people who like CBD, but now there's these other products on the market. So I kind of get a wide range of different people, but it's an interesting space to be in. And there's a lot of challenges with this unregulated market that has a very fine line as far as what's legal and what's not.
He's talking about things like Delta 8 and Delta 10. So what's the deal with those?
Let's kind of set the stage here. So one thing to realize is that cannabis is the plant. Hemp, which was federally defined in the 2018 Farm Bill as having less than 0.3% Delta 9 THC by dry weight. So that's what we're all going on. So based on that, there are other cannabinoids that are in the plant, but at very low levels that are psychoactive, that the industry, as innovative as it is, has figured out to convert CBD isolate into Delta 8, Delta 10, THCO, THCP. There's all sorts of other cannabinoids, but they're not being consumed. They're not, you can't get them naturally from the plant. So we're talking about lab conversions, and I can get into that a little bit more, but there's a lot of questions about that, understandably so, as far as quality, purity, and just how things are being marketed.
And so helping customers navigate all of this nuance and chaos is part of his job.
So one of the key things within the industry that, a lot of people hear about are these COAs, these certificates of analysis, which essentially will be a third-party lab profile to show what either the plant or the product contains. So as far as the cannabinoid profile, the terpene profile, heavy metals, pesticides, mold, mildew. I mean, these products are all for human consumption. And as an unregulated market, the consumers don't necessarily know what they're getting. And because it's such a saturated market, a lot of products are being sold online, or if they're being sold in stores where the person who's selling the product doesn't know where they came from or what's in the product, then there's a lack of education or accurate information. So that's one of the things I believe that set me apart. And while I'm still here all through COVID, is that I really take time to understand and engage with the customer and be able to explain to them all of the different product options.
And what are those product options?
Really, it's customer intent. So someone walks into the shop and they're here for a reason. They're either curious, it's their first time, they've heard about CBD or some of these Delta products, and they want to know more. And I have 3 different posters that kind of speak to what a terpene is and what a cannabinoid is, and also some of the benefits. However, the government, FDA specifically, does not want anyone in the industry to make any specific claim. But the idea is that, it may help with some things: anxiety, pain relief, sleep, just general wellness. And then there's also the psychoactive component to it. So again, customer intent. Why are you here? What are you interested in? Understanding their different consumption methods. And what I mean by that is there's I'd say 4 different product types. So you're either going to have your smokable products, you're going to have your tinctures, your oils, you'll have edibles and topicals. So in my shop, I have 3 different cabinets, and they're broken down into your flower and your vape products, your oils and your capsules, and then your gummies, and then there's your topical products. And each one of them have kind of different elements based on what that customer is looking for. And so again, it's pairing. It's an intentional thing. You engage, you actively listen, you understand what they're looking for, and then you offer up some suggestions as far as product type, dosage, and frequency, meaning how often should you take it. It's a plan. It's not going to work for everybody. But one thing you need to do is try and experiment. And if it works, then they come back for more. But it's not like take a 5 milligram capsule, and if you don't feel it, then it didn't work. It's just that maybe you didn't take the right product in the right dosage at the right time.
In a lot of ways, the success of a CBD shop really comes down to customer experience. So Drew has put a lot of thought into the design of Two Moons CBD.
It's intended to be an inviting space that, again, is not like a smoke shop or a vape shop or a gas station. I mean, hemp's being sold everywhere in all sorts of different forms. Mine is more health and wellness oriented, which I think I tend to get an older demographic that a lot of people don't want to go into these smoke shops and vape shops. They're looking for health and wellness, and that's really the market that I serve.
Between running the shop and distributing genetics, he ends up talking to a lot of farmers.
As a seed seller, meaning I provide genetics for cannabinoids, when talking to farmers and saying, well, yeah, I own a shop, ultimately, they're all like, can you help me sell my products? I'm a small shop, so I would love to be able to have a bigger impact as far as moving some of the product that's being produced. But the local farmers come by, they will bring their different products. And I have, like I said, about a dozen local brands and all sort of products because they don't have brick and mortar shops. I mean, that's one thing that I have on a busy road it's retail. It's all about location. So I have a physical shop you can walk into, and I can talk about all these different products.
One of the many hats that Drew wears in the hemp space is as a brand ambassador for a cannabis company called Earthy Now. And in his capacity as brand ambassador, he's been doing a lot of traveling around the country, visiting CBD shops, something like over 400 shops just in the past 4 months. So he's got a really unique perspective that I think farmers and shop owners can learn from.
I've seen all these different stores and all these different products. And, one thing, it's really hard to sell a product if it's not in front of the buyer. Certainly with flower. I mean, there's so much to this plant that to sell it based on an image, it's not going to work. You need to see it. You need to smell it. You need to try it to really know how good or not good it is. There's a lot of senses that goes into this, from the aroma, the flavor, and then the effect. So one thing that's really important that farmers need to do first off is identify buyers, because it's hard to move material and differentiate yourself because there's so much in the market. So trying to come up with something unique, and then just do a really good job with cultivating. I mean, it's a combination to produce this plant. It's the cultivar. What are you growing? The cultivator, who's growing it, and the methodology. How are you growing it? And it's super complex, but to be able to differentiate high quality, fair price, and to be able to get in front of the buyer is really important.
And so what's his assessment of CBD shops after visiting so many?
As far as profiling these different shops, I would say there's very few, maybe 10% like mine, that is very quality focused, that has that's intentional in what it offers as far as selectivity, brand quality, what else, maybe diversifying, something to carry like other hemp products. As I had mentioned, the Vermont Hemporium 20 years ago was hats and shirts. And so some people carry some of those products. I focus primarily on cannabinoid products, but there's a lot of these vape and smoke shops. And I don't want to talk negatively, about any one of them. But the thing that I've identified that's kind of the biggest issue and the need is for education for the consumer and also for the people selling the products. A lot of them don't necessarily know what they're selling, the dosage, where it comes from, is it tested, what's in it, how much should someone take? And I think there's potential, bad experiences for consumers that are trying to find some benefit, who aren't given accurate information and say they tried CBD when they may have tried Delta 8. Again, someone who's expecting one thing and experiences another isn't good for the industry, or takes too much, not realizing, or takes too little and doesn't get any benefit. So, consumer education and product knowledge is just really important. And it's, a lot of people are just getting products. And again, they don't know what it is that they're providing.
All right, there you have it. Education is key, says Drew Kitt from 22 Moons CBD. All right, well, that's the show for today. Thanks for sticking around to the end. My name is Eric Herlock. I am the digital editor at Lancaster Farming Newspaper, the greatest agricultural newspaper in the world. Check us out online at lancasterfarming.com, where you'll be able to find links to that USDA National Hemp Report. You'll find links to the news stories that we talked about, as well as links to the companies that we mentioned here today. So, all right, if you ever need to get in touch with me, please just send an email. Send it to podcast@lancasterfarming. I'm always looking to talk to interesting people doing interesting things in the hemp space or in the regenerative agriculture space or anything really. You want to send me an email and talk to me? I would love to talk to you. So, all right, I hope to hear from you soon. Until next time, I will see you in the newspaper. And don't forget to check out the track by Senehiro called Honomu in its entirety right after the credits.
Industrial hemp.
Episode 4 of Season 2 of the Lancaster Farming Industrial Hemp Podcast is copyright 2022 by Lancaster Farming Newspaper, part of the Steinman Communications family. Today's show is written and recorded, edited and produced by Eric Herlock. And most of the music you hear throughout the show is courtesy of Tinbird Shadow. But today we have one exception. It's the track given to us by permission from Victor-Alann Weeks called Honomu under the name of Senehiro. And here it is in its entirety.